Hello there and welcome to Fairyland Cottage, and thanks very much for joining me here today. One of you asked last week in the comments, how did we come about by calling the channel Fairyland Cottage? So I thought I'd take this opportunity to share with you how we came about to actually live in the cottage and where the name actually comes from. It all started about 8 years ago when we had a desire to move from the city to the countryside. And like I said in last week's video, I drew some pictures of the ideal cottage I was looking for, with a little garden to grow some vegetables, and we started the process of looking at properties online and going for a few viewings. What we were shocked by was that there was actually very little property available, and the ones that were available seemed to be snapped up straight away. But we continued to persevere. One day, out of the blue, I got this idea that I needed to build a miniature cottage before we were going to be able to find our actual cottage to live in. Now I know that sounds a little bit odd, but I've learned over the years that sometimes it's the oddest ideas we have that can turn out to be the best. Let me know if that's something that you have found in life. And sometimes you need to just go with those ideas that you have and not really try and logicalize them. Now, I didn't know how I was going to build this miniature cottage. I didn't know what materials I was going to use. I just had the idea. A few weeks later, I was at my friend's wedding. Lo and behold, sitting beside me at the table was a ceramic teacher. We got talking. She informed me that she had classes and she had space available, and I knew there and then that I was going to build a little ceramic cottage. I never forget the first day I arrived in the studio. It was a cold January evening. I thought maybe it would take me 1 or 2 classes to build this little cottage and I'd be done. But the weeks and the months went by, and I patiently and lovingly built this cottage. Months and months and months later, it was all finished. And a few weeks after that, there I was looking online for properties as we'd been doing for the months previously. And I noticed that one of the cottages looked similar to the one I had seen the very first time. Now, an interesting little thing to the story is that the very first cottage I saw was another cottage that was actually on the land. My husband had been working that day, so I went to view it on my own. Really liked it, rang my husband straight away, and then subsequently rang the landlord to ask him for a second viewing, where he informed me that the person that came after me just whipped it up straight away. I was incredibly disappointed, but we continued to just search for more properties, and of course I continued making that ceramic cottage. So when it came about that I found a similar cottage on the same land, I rang the landlord straight away and asked could we view it there and then that day. I remember when we walked into the cottage we live in now, I saw the high beams and the sun coming through the skylights. We both knew that this was the cottage for us. And of course it had the garden for growing vegetables, and the icing on the cake was the log burning stove and the apple trees in the garden. We snapped it up that day and we moved in shortly afterwards, and we've been happily living here for the past 7 years. What I learned in the process was something I learned by watching loads of property programs on TV when I was younger. I remember they always said to know what you want, but be willing to compromise somewhere because you're never going to get everything on your tick list. So I find this relevant for everything in life. We knew we wanted somewhere in the countryside that was peaceful and quiet, a garden to grow vegetables, and a warm home. There was loads of things on our list that the cottage and garden didn't have, but it didn't matter because we knew where we were willing to compromise. Another little piece of magic to the story is that a few weeks after we had moved into the cottage, I noticed that the ceramic cottage had a similar window on the side that this cottage we were living in had. And I had never noticed before. And I've shared that little east window over on Instagram or in previous videos. And it's quite a magical little window because every morning when there's sun, the sunrise beams straight into that window. And we don't really know, because the cottage is 300 years old, why they actually put that window up there. But maybe they knew and they wanted to have the sunrise beaming through the house. Next is how the Fairyland cottage name came about. So when I was living in the cottage, we came to know the original owner of the land. She was a wonderful lady who brought up all her kids on the land, and when they were going out to play, she used to tell them, "Don't go past Fairyland." And she informed me that Fairyland was the tiny forest at the back of our cottage. So it was only fitting that we called the cottage Fairyland Cottage, and subsequently I changed the name of the YouTube channel from The Little Irish Kitchen to Fairyland Cottage. So I really love telling this story because I find it incredibly magical, and it reminds me of that wonderful quote by the author Roald Dahl: "Those that don't believe in magic will never find it." And I've really learned the power of magic and never underestimating magic that can come into your life if you're open to it. So I really hope you've enjoyed this story, and I'd love if you share down below any instances in your life where you know that magic played a part. I absolutely love the name Fairyland Cottage, and I think it is perfect for the name of the YouTube channel and of course for our cottage. So as always, chat down below or over on Instagram. Thank you for watching and listening to this little story. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you want more detail of the stories of how we came to live here at Fairyland, it's in the ebook along with pictures of the ceramic cottage that I built. So thank you very much for watching this video. Have a wonderful week, keep it simple, and I'll see you in the next video.